Welcome to the Whispering Galaxy, where we explore the universe's most fascinating mysteries at a pace that soothes the mind and sparks wonder. Tonight, we're embarking on a gentle journey into perhaps the most extraordinary structure in all of existence, one that sits quietly between your ears right now. We're going to explore the human brain, that remarkable 3-pound universe tucked safely inside your skull. Before we begin this peaceful voyage through the corridors of consciousness, I'd love to know where you're joining us from tonight. Are you nestled comfortably in bed somewhere across the globe, perhaps watching the stars through your window? Maybe you're curled up on a favorite chair as the evening settles around you. Wherever you are, I hope you feel at ease and ready to drift gently through the wonders we'll discover together. If you find these explorations meaningful, a gentle tap on the like button helps our little corner of the internet reach other curious minds. And if you're already part of our growing community of night wanderers and wonder seekers, thank you for being here. Your presence makes this journey all the more special. Now, I'll do my best to make tonight's exploration fascinating without being so captivating that it keeps you wide awake. Though if it does, at least you'll drift off with some truly remarkable knowledge about the most complex object we know of in the universe. So let's begin this slow, contemplative journey into the whispering galaxy that exists within each of us. What if I told you that right now, as you listen to these words, you're carrying within your head something more intricate than all the world's computers combined? Something that contains more connections than there are stars visible in our night sky. This isn't science fiction or poetic exaggeration. It's the quiet reality of what rests between your ears. The human brain weighs roughly the same as a small cantaloupe, yet it orchestrates every breath you take, every heartbeat that keeps you alive, every memory you've ever formed, and every dream you've ever dreamed. It's simultaneously the most familiar and most mysterious part of who you are. You've never seen it, never touched it, never heard it working, yet it's been your constant companion since before you were born. Imagine for a moment that you could shrink down and explore this hidden landscape. You'd find yourself wandering through a dense forest of branching structures, each one reaching out to thousands of others in an endless web of connection. These are your neurons, roughly 86 billion of them. Each one a living cell capable of receiving, processing, and transmitting information at lightning speed. To put this number in perspective, if you were to count each neuron one by one, spending just 1 second on each, it would take you nearly 3,000 years to count them all. And that's just the neurons. Each of these cells connects to others through tiny junctions called synapses, creating a network of approximately 100 trillion connections. If each synapse were a grain of sand, you could build a beach stretching from New York to Los Angeles and back again several times over. But numbers, however staggering, can't quite capture the true wonder of what's happening in your brain right now. As you process these words, as you perhaps shift position or take a deeper breath, electrical signals are racing through your neural pathways at speeds that would make our fastest internet connections seem sluggish. These aren't random sparks, but precisely timed conversations between cells, each pulse carrying specific information that contributes to the symphony of your conscious experience. The brain consumes about 20% of all the energy your body produces, despite representing only 2% of your total weight. It's like having a small city inside your head that never sleeps, never takes a break, constantly humming with activity, even when you're lost in the deepest dreams. This energy isn't wasted on idle chatter between cells. Every spark serves a purpose, whether it's maintaining your heartbeat, processing the feeling of warmth from your blanket, or weaving together the threads of a distant memory. What makes this even more remarkable is that your brain built itself. You began as a single cell, smaller than the period at the end of the sentence. From that microscopic beginning, your developing brain somehow knew how to create billions of neurons, guide them to precisely the right locations, and wire them together in patterns of stunning complexity. No architect designed this structure. No engineer drew up the blueprints. Your brain assembled itself according to ancient instructions encoded in your DNA, creating a unique neural landscape that has never existed before and will never exist again. This self-construction continues throughout your life. Unlike a building that remains static once completed, your brain is constantly remodeling itself. Every new skill you learn, every memory you form, every habit you develop, literally changes its physical structure. The pathways you use most often grow stronger and more efficient, while those you neglect gradually fade away. Your brain is like a living sculpture, forever reshaping itself based on how you choose to use it. Consider the elegant way your brain processes the simple act of reading these words. Light reflecting off your screen enters your eyes and strikes the retina, where specialized cells convert photons into electrical signals. These signals travel along the optic nerve to the visual cortex at the back of your brain, where they're decoded into patterns of light and shadow. Other regions recognize these patterns as letters, then words, then meaning. Meanwhile, different areas might be associating these words with memories, emotions, or mental images, all happening simultaneously and seamlessly, yet you experience none of this complexity directly. You don't feel the electrical storms in your visual cortex, or sense the rapid-fire conversations between different brain regions. You simply see words and understand their meaning as naturally as breathing. This is perhaps the brain's greatest magic trick, taking the overwhelming complexity of neural processing and presenting you with a smooth, unified experience of reality. The brain's influence extends far beyond conscious thought. Right now, without any effort on your part, it's monitoring your body temperature and making subtle adjustments to keep you comfortable. It's regulating your breathing, sometimes faster when you're engaged, sometimes slower when you're relaxed. It's managing the rhythm of your heart, increasing or decreasing its pace based on your body's needs. It's coordinating the delicate balance that keeps you upright, making thousands of tiny corrections you'll never notice. This automatic control system, known as the autonomic nervous system, operates like a master conductor orchestrating an incredibly complex symphony. It manages not just the obvious functions like heartbeat and breathing, but also processes as subtle as hormone release, immune system responses, and the intricate dance of digestion. All of this happens in the background, while your conscious mind focuses on other things, like following along with this gentle exploration. The brain's architecture reflects billions of years of evolutionary refinement. The most ancient parts, tucked deep at its base, control the fundamental processes that keep you alive. These regions, often called the reptilian brain, handle breathing, heartbeat, and basic survival instincts. They've remained relatively unchanged for hundreds of millions of years because they do their jobs so reliably. Layered around this ancient core are newer additions that handle more sophisticated functions. The limbic system processes emotions and helps form memories, while the neocortex, the wrinkled outer layer that gives the brain its distinctive appearance, handles complex thinking, language, and conscious awareness. This layered structure means you carry within your head a living museum of evolution, each level representing a different chapter in the long story of life on Earth. The brain's surface is folded and creased like a crumpled piece of paper, and this wrinkling serves an important purpose. By folding the cortex into ridges and valleys, evolution managed to pack an enormous amount of thinking tissue into the limited space of your skull. If you could smooth out all these folds, your brain's surface would cover an area roughly the size of a large pizza, all compressed into a space that fits comfortably in your hands. This folded landscape contains specialized neighborhoods, each with its own particular expertise. There are regions dedicated to processing touch, others focused on hearing or vision. Some areas specialize in movement, others in language or mathematical thinking. Yet these regions don't work in isolation. They're constantly communicating with each other through highways of nerve fibers that crisscross the brain like an elaborate transportation network. The white matter, named for its pale appearance, forms these connecting pathways. It's made up of millions of nerve fibers wrapped in a fatty substance called myelin, which acts like insulation on electrical wires. This insulation allows signals to travel faster and more efficiently, turning the brain into a high-speed information network where thoughts can flash from one region to another in milliseconds. As we pause here in our exploration, take a moment to appreciate the quiet miracle happening within your head right now. Billions of cells are working in perfect harmony, creating the rich tapestry of your inner experience. They're processing these words, perhaps stirring memories or emotions, maybe generating new thoughts or questions. All of this complexity, this stunning orchestration of matter and energy, is happening silently and effortlessly, allowing you to exist as the conscious being you are. We've only begun to scratch the surface of this incredible universe within your skull. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how these billions of neurons actually communicate with each other, diving deeper into the elegant chemistry and physics that make thought itself possible. But for now, rest in the wonder that you are, quite literally, a walking, thinking galaxy of connections, a universe of possibilities wrapped in the gentle protection of bone and skin. The language of the brain is not words or sounds, but something far more ancient and elegant. It speaks in whispers of electricity and chemistry, in tiny sparks that leap across microscopic spaces, carrying messages that shape every moment of your existence. As you continue to rest comfortably, let's venture deeper into this hidden realm of neural conversation, where thoughts are born from the dance of molecules too small to see. Each neuron in your brain is like a miniature tree, with a central trunk and countless branches reaching out in all directions. The main body, called the cell body or soma, contains the nucleus that governs the cell's life. From this central hub extend delicate projections called dendrites, like the branches of a winter tree, designed to receive incoming signals from neighboring neurons. On the opposite end stretches a single long pathway called the axon, which can extend for mere micrometers or, in some cases, stretch nearly the entire length of your body, carrying messages from your brain down to your toes. The beauty of neural communication lies not in the neurons themselves, but in the spaces between them. These gaps, called synapses, are where the real magic happens. When an electrical signal reaches the end of an axon, it cannot simply jump across to the next neuron like electricity arcing between two wires. Instead, something far more sophisticated occurs. At the synapse, the electrical signal triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These molecules are stored in tiny bubble-like containers called vesicles, waiting patiently until the moment they're needed. When the electrical pulse arrives, these vesicles burst open like microscopic soap bubbles, releasing their contents into the synaptic gap. The neurotransmitters drift across this narrow space, a journey that takes only milliseconds, but represents one of the most crucial conversations in your body. On the receiving side, the next neuron has specialized receptors embedded in its membrane, shaped precisely to catch specific types of neurotransmitter molecules. When the right chemical key finds its matching lock, channels in the cell membrane open, allowing charged particles to flow in or out. This creates a new electrical signal that can travel along the receiving neuron, potentially triggering it to release its own neurotransmitters to the next cell in the chain. This process happens with breathtaking speed and precision. A single neuron might receive input from thousands of others, each synapse adding its voice to a complex chorus of signals. Some synapses whisper excitatory messages that encourage the receiving neuron to fire, while others murmur inhibitory signals that urge restraint and quiet. The receiving neuron must somehow integrate all these competing voices, deciding in each moment whether to remain silent or to add its own signal to the neural symphony. Different neurotransmitters carry different emotional tones and functional messages. Dopamine brings whispers of reward and motivation, making experiences feel satisfying and encouraging you to seek them again. Serotonin carries messages of mood and contentment, helping to regulate your emotional equilibrium. GABA acts as the brain's gentle brake pedal, calming overexcited neurons and promoting a sense of peace and relaxation. Acetylcholine sharpens attention and focus, helping you concentrate on the task at hand. Each of these chemical messengers contributes its own voice to the ongoing conversation that shapes your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. The timing of these neural conversations is exquisitely precise. Neurons that fire together in coordinated patterns strengthen their connections to each other, a phenomenon elegantly summarized in the phrase, "neurons that fire together, wire together." This is how memories form, how skills develop, and how habits become ingrained in your neural architecture. Each time you practice a new ability or revisit a cherished memory, you're literally reshaping the physical structure of your brain, making certain pathways stronger and more efficient. But neurons are not the only residents of this inner universe. Scattered throughout the brain are supporting cells called glia, whose name comes from the Greek word for glue. For many years, these cells were thought to be merely structural support, holding neurons in place like scaffolding. We now know they play far more active and vital roles in brain function. Astrocytes, shaped like tiny stars, wrap around synapses and help regulate the chemical environment where neural communication takes place. They clean up excess neurotransmitters, provide nutrients to neurons, and even participate in processing information. Oligodendrocytes act like skilled electricians, wrapping axons in layers of fatty insulation called myelin. This wrapping dramatically increases the speed at which electrical signals can travel, turning slow neural pathways into high-speed information highways. Microglia serve as the brain's immune system, constantly patrolling for signs of damage or disease. When they detect a problem, they can transform from peaceful guardians into active defenders, clearing away cellular debris and fighting off infections. These tiny cells are like microscopic janitors and security guards rolled into one, working tirelessly to maintain the brain's health and cleanliness. The brain's electrical activity creates rhythms and patterns that can be measured and studied. These brainwaves, detected through electrodes placed on the scalp, reveal the underlying tempo of neural activity. When you're alert and focused, your brain hums with fast beta waves. During relaxed wakefulness, it settles into the gentler rhythm of alpha waves. As you drift towards sleep, slower theta waves begin to roll through your neural networks like distant thunder, eventually giving way to the deep, slow delta waves of profound slumber. These rhythms aren't merely byproducts of brain activity. They're essential organizing principles that help coordinate communication across different brain regions. Like a conductor's baton keeping an orchestra in time, brainwaves help ensure that far-flung neural networks can work together harmoniously. When these rhythms become disrupted, whether by illness, injury, or other factors, the effects can ripple throughout the entire system. The brain's ability to generate its own electrical activity means it's never truly at rest. Even during the deepest sleep, waves of neural activity continue to sweep across its surface. These aren't random fluctuations, but purposeful patterns that serve important functions. During sleep, the brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and performs essential maintenance tasks that help prepare it for the challenges of a new day. What's particularly fascinating is how this electrical activity gives rise to something as intangible as consciousness. Somehow, from the coordinated firing of billions of neurons, emerges the warm glow of awareness, the sense of being a unified self experiencing the world. This transformation from matter to mind remains one of the deepest mysteries in all of science, a bridge between the physical and the subjective that we're only beginning to understand. The neural pathways that carry these electrical signals form an intricate network more complex than any human-made system. Information doesn't flow in simple straight lines, but travels along multiple parallel pathways, with signals branching, converging, and recombining in patterns that create the rich tapestry of thought and experience. Some pathways carry sensory information from the outside world, others handle motor commands that control movement, and still others manage the internal dialogue of memory, emotion, and reflection. This network is remarkably plastic, meaning it can reorganize itself throughout your life. When you learn a new skill, practice a musical instrument, or even navigate a new route to work, you're creating new neural pathways and strengthening existing ones. The brain you have today is subtly different from the brain you had yesterday, shaped by every experience, every thought, and every moment of learning. As we continue our gentle exploration of this inner cosmos, we begin to see that the brain is not merely a biological computer, but something far more elegant and mysterious. It's a living system that creates itself, maintains itself, and constantly recreates itself in response to the world around it. In our next segment, we'll explore how this remarkable organ perceives and interprets the world, transforming the raw data of sensation into the rich, meaningful experience of reality that surrounds you right now. Now, the world as you experience it right now, the gentle glow of your screen, the soft sounds drifting through your space, the comfortable weight of your body at rest, exists nowhere outside your skull. This might sound like philosophical poetry, but it's a profound neurological truth. Everything you perceive, every sensation that feels so immediate and real, is actually a carefully constructed interpretation created by your brain from fragments of raw data streaming in through your senses. Your eyes don't see the world directly. Instead, they capture patterns of light bouncing off surfaces and convert these photons into electrical signals. Your ears don't hear sounds. They detect vibrations in the air and transform them into neural codes. Your skin doesn't feel textures, temperatures, or pressure. It responds to physical stimuli and translates them into the language of the nervous system. In every case, your brain takes these electrical whispers and weaves them into the rich, seamless experience you call reality. Let's follow the journey of a single photon as it makes its way from the outside world into your consciousness. Light strikes your eye and passes through the cornea, that clear dome at the front of your eye that acts like a window. It travels through the pupil, whose size is constantly adjusted by tiny muscles to control how much light enters, much like the aperture of a camera. The lens focuses this light precisely onto the retina at the back of your eye, a thin layer of tissue packed with over 100 million light-sensitive cells. These cells, called photoreceptors, come in two main types. Rod cells are exquisitely sensitive to light and work well in dim conditions, but they can't distinguish colors. Cone cells require brighter light but can detect different wavelengths, giving you the gift of color vision. When light strikes these cells, it triggers a cascade of chemical reactions that ultimately generate electrical signals, the universal currency of neural communication. But the retina doesn't simply pass along raw data. It's actually part of your brain that has migrated to the eye during development, and it performs sophisticated processing before sending information along the optic nerve. Different types of retinal cells enhance edges, detect movement, and adjust for changing light conditions. By the time visual information leaves your eye, it has already been filtered, sharpened, and organized. The optic nerve, containing over 1 million nerve fibers, carries these processed signals to a relay station deep in your brain called the thalamus. Think of the thalamus as a busy airport hub where information from different senses arrives, gets sorted, and is forwarded to appropriate destinations throughout the brain. Visual information is routed primarily to the occipital lobe at the back of your brain, where the real magic of sight begins. The primary visual cortex receives this stream of electrical patterns and begins to deconstruct them into their component features. Some neurons specialize in detecting horizontal lines, others respond to vertical edges, and still others fire when they encounter curves or corners. It's as if your brain is taking apart a complex puzzle, separating out each piece so it can understand how they fit together. From here, visual information flows along two major pathways that neuroscientists poetically call the what pathway and the where pathway. The what pathway, flowing toward the temporal lobe, focuses on identifying objects, recognizing faces, and understanding meaning. The where pathway, heading toward the parietal lobe, tracks movement, judges distances, and maps spatial relationships. These parallel processing streams work simultaneously, allowing you to both recognize what you're looking at and understand where it exists in space. Your sense of hearing follows an equally intricate path from vibration to perception. Sound waves enter your outer ear and travel down the ear canal until they strike the eardrum, causing it to vibrate in precise synchrony with the incoming sound. These vibrations are transmitted through a chain of 3 tiny bones in your middle ear, the smallest bones in your entire body, which amplify the signal and transfer it to the inner ear. The inner ear contains the cochlea, a snail-shaped structure filled with fluid and lined with thousands of hair cells, each tuned to respond to different frequencies of sound. When sound waves create ripples in the cochlear fluid, these hair cells bend and generate electrical signals that travel along the auditory nerve to your brainstem and eventually to the auditory cortex in your temporal lobe. Along this journey, your brain extracts rhythm, pitch, loudness, and location, transforming simple vibrations into the rich soundscape of your world. Touch might seem like the most direct of your senses, but it too involves remarkable transformation and interpretation. Your skin contains millions of specialized receptors that respond to different types of stimuli. Some detect light touch, others respond to pressure, temperature, or potentially harmful sensations that you experience as pain. These receptors convert mechanical, thermal, and chemical stimuli into electrical signals that travel through your peripheral nerves to your spinal cord and up to your brain. The somatosensory cortex, located along a strip running across the top of your brain from ear to ear, contains a complete map of your body surface. This map is not proportional to actual body size, but reflects sensitivity, with enormous areas devoted to your lips, hands, and face, while relatively small regions represent your back or legs. This is why you can detect incredibly subtle differences in texture with your fingertips, but might not notice a light touch on your shoulder. Perhaps the most mysterious of your senses is smell, which connects directly to ancient parts of your brain involved in emotion and memory. When you breathe in, airborne molecules dissolve in the mucus lining your nasal cavity and bind to olfactory receptor cells. These cells, unique amongst sensory neurons, extend directly from your nasal cavity into your brain, bypassing the usual relay stations. This direct connection explains why scents can trigger vivid memories or powerful emotions with startling immediacy. Taste works in partnership with smell to create the complex experience of flavor. Your tongue contains taste buds that respond to 5 basic categories: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, which is the savory taste of proteins. But most of what you experience as taste is actually smell, traveling through the back of your throat to reach your olfactory receptors. This is why food seems flavorless when you have a stuffy nose. The remarkable thing about all these sensory systems is how seamlessly your brain weaves their inputs together into a unified experience. Right now, as you read these words, you're simultaneously seeing the text, perhaps hearing ambient sounds, feeling the temperature of the air on your skin, and maintaining awareness of your body's position in space. Your brain continuously integrates these streams of information, cross-checking them for consistency and filling in gaps to create a coherent picture of your world. This integration isn't passive, but involves active prediction and interpretation. Your brain doesn't simply receive sensory data, It actively constructs your perceptual experience based on incoming information combined with expectations, memories, and context. This is why optical illusions work, why you can hear words in languages you understand even in noisy environments, and why a gentle touch can feel different depending on whether you're expecting it or not. The brain's predictive nature means that much of what you perceive is actually your brain's best guess about what's happening in the world around you. It uses past experience to anticipate what should come next, and when reality matches these predictions, you experience a smooth, coherent world. When predictions fail, you might feel surprised, confused, or delighted by the unexpected. This predictive processing extends beyond immediate sensation to influence how you perceive time, space, and even your own body. Your brain maintains a constantly updated model of where your limbs are positioned, how your body is oriented, and how you're moving through space. This internal map, called proprioception, operates so smoothly that you rarely notice it, yet it's essential for everything from walking to reaching for a glass of water. As we drift deeper into this exploration of how your brain creates your personal universe, we begin to see that perception is not passive reception, but active construction. Every moment of your waking life, your brain is building reality from electrical signals, filling gaps with educated guesses, and presenting you with a world that feels immediate and direct, but is actually a masterful interpretation of fragmentary data. In our continuing journey, we'll explore how this remarkable organ not only perceives the world, but acts upon it, coordinating the intricate dance of movement that allows you to navigate through space with grace and precision. Grace and precision. Movement is perhaps the most visible expression of your brain's hidden artistry. Every gesture you make, from the subtle shift of your eyes as they follow these words to the gentle rise and fall of your chest with each breath, represents a masterpiece of neural coordination happening beneath the surface of awareness. Right now, even as you rest in stillness, your brain is orchestrating thousands of tiny adjustments, maintaining your posture, coordinating your breathing, and preparing for any movement you might choose to make. At the heart of this motor symphony lies a strip of tissue running like a crown across the top of your brain, called the primary motor cortex. This region contains a complete map of your body's muscles, though like the sensory map we explored earlier, it's wonderfully distorted. The areas controlling your hands and face occupy enormous territories, reflecting the precise control needed for delicate tasks like writing or speaking, while the regions governing your torso claim relatively modest space. When you decide to move, that decision begins as a spark of electrical activity in your motor cortex. But this isn't a simple command sent directly to your muscles. Instead, it's more like the opening note of an elaborate musical composition, one that will involve multiple brain regions working in exquisite harmony. The signal flows from your motor cortex down through your brainstem and spinal cord, branching out along peripheral nerves until it reaches the specific muscles that will carry out your intended action. Yet this is only part of the story. Working behind the scenes is a remarkable structure called the cerebellum, tucked beneath the back of your brain like a smaller, more densely folded cousin of the cerebrum. Though the cerebellum represents only about 10% of your brain's volume, it contains more than half of all your neurons, packed into its tightly folded surface like an incredibly dense library of movement patterns. The cerebellum doesn't initiate movement, but it refines it with breathtaking precision. It receives copies of every motor command sent from your cortex, along with continuous feedback from sensors throughout your body reporting on the actual state of your muscles and joints. By comparing what you intended to do with what's actually happening, the cerebellum can make split-second adjustments, smoothing out your movements and maintaining your balance with corrections so subtle you never notice them. This process happens with remarkable speed. When you reach for something, your cerebellum is constantly updating your trajectory, adjusting for the weight of the object, the resistance of the air, even the slight tremor that naturally exists in all muscle contractions. It's like having an incredibly sophisticated autopilot system that operates below the threshold of consciousness, allowing you to perform complex movements with fluid grace. Consider the seemingly simple act of walking. Each step requires your brain to coordinate dozens of muscles in precise sequence. Your weight must shift from one foot to the other. Your balance must be maintained as you momentarily stand on one leg, and your arms must swing in counterpoint to your legs to maintain stability. All of this happens automatically, freeing your conscious mind to focus on where you're going rather than how to get there. The brain regions that plan and coordinate movement extend far beyond the motor cortex and cerebellum. Deep structures called the basal ganglia help initiate movements and select which actions to perform from the many possibilities available at any moment. They also play a crucial role in developing habits, those automatic sequences of behavior that become so ingrained they require almost no conscious attention. When you first learn a new motor skill, whether it's playing a musical instrument, typing on a keyboard, or riding a bicycle, the process feels clumsy and requires intense concentration. Your brain is actively building new neural pathways, strengthening connections between neurons that need to work together. With practice, these pathways become more efficient, and what once required focused attention gradually becomes automatic. This transformation from conscious effort to unconscious competence represents one of the brain's most remarkable abilities. The neural networks involved in the skill become so well rehearsed that they can operate with minimal input from higher-level planning centers. It's as if your brain creates dedicated circuits for frequently performed actions, freeing up mental resources for other tasks. The speed at which your brain processes movement is truly extraordinary. When you catch a ball thrown toward you, your visual system tracks the object's trajectory. Your brain calculates where it will be when your hand reaches that point in space, and your motor system coordinates the complex sequence of muscle contractions needed to intercept it. All of this happens in fractions of a second, far faster than conscious thought could possibly direct. Even the simplest movements involve sophisticated calculations. When you pick up a coffee cup, your brain must estimate its weight, adjust your grip strength accordingly, and coordinate the muscles of your arm, shoulder, and even your core to maintain stability. If the cup is lighter or heavier than expected, your motor system instantly recalibrates, preventing you from either dropping the cup or crushing it in your grip. Your brain's motor control extends beyond voluntary movements to encompass the countless automatic functions that keep you alive. The rhythm of your breathing, normally so steady and unconscious, can be brought under voluntary control when needed, but most of the time, it operates through ancient circuits in your brainstem that have been refined over millions of years of evolution. The same brainstem regions coordinate swallowing, a deceptively complex process that requires split-second timing to ensure food and liquid go down your throat rather than into your lungs. Your heart rate adjusts constantly based on your body's needs, speeding up during activity and slowing during rest, all without any conscious input from you. These automatic functions reveal another layer of your brain's motor control system. While you consciously direct some movements, like reaching for these words on your screen, your brain simultaneously manages dozens of unconscious processes. Your posture shifts subtly to maintain comfort. Your eyes make tiny adjustments to track the text, and your breathing deepens or shallows based on your level of attention and relaxation. The integration of conscious and unconscious motor control creates a seamless experience of embodiment. You don't feel like you're controlling a complex biological machine. You simply feel like you are your body. This sense of ownership over your physical form emerges from the constant stream of sensory feedback that your brain receives from muscles, joints, and skin, woven together with the motor commands it sends out. Sometimes this integration can be disrupted in fascinating ways. When your foot falls asleep due to pressure on a nerve, the lack of normal sensory feedback can make it feel foreign and disconnected. Phantom limb sensations experienced by amputees reveal how deeply the brain's map of the body is ingrained in neural circuits. These phenomena offer glimpses into the normally invisible process by which your brain maintains its sense of your physical self. The motor system also reveals the brain's remarkable capacity for adaptation and recovery. When injury damages motor pathways, other regions can sometimes take over their functions through a process called neuroplasticity. People who have lost the use of one hand can train the other to perform tasks with remarkable skill, while those with spinal cord injuries can sometimes learn to control robotic devices through brain-computer interfaces that read motor intentions directly from neural activity. This adaptability extends to everyday learning as well. Every time you practice a new skill or refine an existing one, you're literally reshaping your brain's motor circuits. Professional musicians show enlarged areas in their motor cortex, corresponding to the fingers they use most, while taxi drivers often have enhanced regions involved in spatial navigation. Your brain sculpts itself based on how you choose to use it. The elegance of motor control becomes even more apparent when you consider how effortlessly you can switch between different types of movement. One moment you might be typing with precise finger movements, the next walking with coordinated leg motions, then reaching overhead with smooth arm gestures. Each type of movement draws on different neural circuits, yet the transitions between them happen seamlessly. As we continue our gentle journey through the brain's hidden landscapes, we begin to appreciate how movement serves as a bridge between inner intention and outer expression. Every gesture, every step, every breath represents the brain's ability to transform electrical patterns into physical action, to turn thought into reality through the medium of muscle and bone. In our next exploration, we'll delve into how this remarkable organ manages not just individual moments of experience, but weaves them together into the continuous narrative of memory, creating the story of who you are across the flowing river of time. The river of time flows through your brain in ways more mysterious and beautiful than any external timepiece could capture. Right now, as you rest in this quiet moment, your brain is simultaneously holding echoes of your distant past, processing the immediate present, and preparing for an unknown future. This isn't metaphorical poetry, but the literal reality of how memory works, transforming fleeting experiences into lasting traces that shape who you are and who you might become. Memory begins with attention, that spotlight of consciousness that illuminates certain experiences while letting others fade into the background. Not everything that happens to you becomes a memory. Your brain is constantly filtering the enormous stream of sensory information, emotional experiences, and internal thoughts, selecting only a fraction for deeper processing and potential storage. When something captures your attention strongly enough, whether through novelty, emotion, or repetition, it begins a remarkable journey through your brain's memory systems. The first stop is often the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe that serves as a kind of memory consolidation center. The hippocampus doesn't store memories permanently, but it plays a crucial role in binding together the different elements of an experience into a coherent whole. Think of the hippocampus as a skilled librarian who takes the scattered pages of an experience and binds them into a complete book. The visual details might be processed in your visual cortex, the sounds in your auditory regions, the emotions in your limbic system, and the context in your frontal lobe. The hippocampus links all these elements together, creating associations between them so that recalling one aspect can bring back the entire experience. This binding process doesn't happen instantly. For hours, days, even weeks after an experience, the hippocampus continues to replay and strengthen the neural patterns associated with that memory. Much of this consolidation happens during sleep, when your brain can focus on processing and organizing the day's experiences without the distraction of new incoming information. As memories mature, they gradually become less dependent on the hippocampus and more firmly embedded in the cortical areas where their various components are stored. This transfer from temporary to permanent storage is called systems consolidation, And it's why very old memories can sometimes survive, even when the hippocampus is damaged, while recent memories might be lost. But here's where memory reveals its most fascinating secret. It's not a passive recording system like a video camera or tape recorder. Every time you recall a memory, you're not simply playing back a stored recording. Instead, you're actively reconstructing the experience from its scattered neural components, and this reconstruction process can subtly alter the memory itself. When a memory is retrieved, it becomes temporarily unstable, malleable to new influences and interpretations. This state, called reconsolidation, allows memories to be updated with new information or changed by your current emotional state or perspective. It's why the same childhood memory might feel different when recalled at different stages of your life, colored by new experiences and deeper understanding. This reconstructive nature of memory means that your past is not fixed but fluid, constantly being rewritten each time you remember it. The story of your life exists not as a static archive, but as a living narrative that evolves with each telling. This might seem unsettling at first, but it's actually one of memory's greatest strengths, allowing you to learn from past experiences and adapt them to new situations. Different types of memories follow different pathways through your brain. Explicit memories, the ones you can consciously recall and describe, depend heavily on the hippocampus and related structures. These include episodic memories of specific events in your life and semantic memories of facts and general knowledge about the world. Implicit memories, on the other hand, operate largely outside conscious awareness. These include motor memories that allow you to ride a bicycle or play a musical instrument, emotional memories that create gut reactions to certain situations, and procedural memories that guide habitual behaviors. These memories are processed through different brain circuits, often involving the basal ganglia and cerebellum, and they tend to be more stable and resistant to forgetting than explicit memories. The emotional coloring of memories deserves special attention. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system for detecting threats and opportunities, works closely with the hippocampus during memory formation. When the amygdala is activated by strong emotions, it releases stress hormones that enhance memory consolidation, making emotionally significant events more likely to be remembered vividly and permanently. This emotional enhancement of memory serves an important evolutionary purpose, ensuring that you remember experiences that might be crucial for survival. But it can also create complications, as traumatic memories might become too strongly encoded, leading to intrusive recollections that can be difficult to control or modify. The relationship between emotion and memory also explains why certain scents, sounds, or images can trigger such powerful recollections. The olfactory system, which processes smell, has direct connections to both the hippocampus and amygdala, bypassing the usual relay stations that other senses must navigate. This direct pathway allows odors to trigger memories with startling immediacy and emotional intensity. Time itself is processed uniquely by your brain's memory systems. You don't simply store the sequence of events like frames in a movie film. Instead, your brain creates a complex web of temporal associations, linking memories to each other based on when they occurred, what caused them, and what followed. This temporal binding allows you to mentally travel through time, reconstructing not just what happened, but when it happened in relation to other events. The subjective experience of time can be dramatically influenced by memory processes. Novel experiences, which require more neural resources to process and encode, often feel like they last longer than familiar, routine activities. This is why childhood summers seem to stretch on forever, filled as they were with new discoveries and experiences, while adult years can seem to pass in a blur of familiar routines. Your brain also maintains different timescales of memory simultaneously. Working memory holds information for seconds to minutes, allowing you to keep a phone number in mind while dialing it or follow the thread of a conversation, Short-term memory bridges minutes to hours, helping you remember what you had for breakfast this morning or where you parked your car. Long-term memory spans days to decades, preserving everything from yesterday's weather to your earliest childhood recollections. The capacity of long-term memory appears to be essentially unlimited. Unlike a computer hard drive that fills up and requires deletion of old files to make room for new ones, your brain seems capable of storing vast amounts of information without reaching capacity. The challenge isn't storage space, but retrieval, finding the right memory among the millions of traces laid down over a lifetime. Forgetting, often viewed as a failure of memory, is actually an adaptive process that helps prevent your mind from becoming cluttered with irrelevant details. Your brain actively prunes memories that are rarely accessed, allowing important information to remain easily retrievable while letting trivial details fade away. This selective forgetting is why you might remember the general outline of a conversation from years ago, while losing the specific words that were spoken. Sleep plays a crucial role in memory consolidation, particularly in transferring information from temporary storage in the hippocampus to more permanent storage in the cortex. During sleep, especially during slow-wave sleep, your brain replays neural patterns from the day's experiences, strengthening the connections that encode important memories while allowing less significant traces to fade. Dreams, those mysterious nighttime journeys of the mind, might represent a side effect of this memory consolidation process. As your brain sorts through the day's experiences, fragments of memories might be recombined in novel ways, creating the strange narratives and impossible scenarios that characterize dream experiences. As we drift toward the close of this segment of our journey through the brain's hidden universe, we can appreciate memory not as a simple storage system, but as a dynamic, creative process that shapes your sense of self across time. Your memories don't just record your past, they actively construct your identity, influence your decisions, and guide your expectations for the future. In our continuing exploration, we'll discover how this remarkable organ doesn't just process individual experiences, but weaves them together with creativity and insight, generating new ideas and solutions that have never existed before in the vast history of the universe. In the quiet spaces between thoughts, in the gentle pauses between heartbeats, something extraordinary happens. Within the folds of your brain, creativity emerges not as a sudden lightning strike, but as a slow dance between different regions of your mind, a conversation between logic and imagination that has been unfolding since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond the horizon. As you rest here in this peaceful moment, your brain is actually in one of its most creative states. When you're not actively focused on a specific task, when your mind is allowed to wander freely, a remarkable network called the default mode network comes alive. This collection of brain regions, scattered across your cortex like constellations in the night sky, begins to hum with activity, making connections between distant memories, weaving together fragments of experience in ways that would never occur during focused attention. The default mode network operates like a master storyteller, taking the raw materials of your life and spinning them into new narratives. It links a childhood memory of rain on a window to the sound of music you heard last week, connects an emotion from yesterday with a half-remembered dream from months ago. These seemingly random associations are actually the building blocks of creative insight, the foundation from which new ideas emerge. But creativity requires more than just wandering thoughts. It needs the careful orchestration of multiple brain networks working in harmony. The executive attention network, centered in your frontal lobe, acts as a gentle editor, evaluating the streams of associations flowing from the default mode network. It doesn't crush these fragile ideas with harsh criticism, but rather guides them with a light touch, helping to shape raw inspiration into something coherent and useful. Meanwhile, the salience network monitors this entire process, acting like a spotlight operator in a theater. It decides which ideas deserve attention, which connections might be worth pursuing, and when to shift between the free-flowing creativity of the default mode and the focused refinement of executive control. This delicate balance between freedom and structure is what allows truly original ideas to emerge. The process of creative insight often begins in regions of your brain that handle pattern recognition and analogical thinking. These areas excel at finding similarities between seemingly unrelated concepts, noticing that the branching structure of a river delta resembles the pathways of blood vessels, or that the way light bends through a prism might illuminate something about how music moves through time. These pattern-matching abilities, refined through millions of years of evolution, become the engine of human creativity. Interestingly, many creative breakthroughs occur not during intense concentration, but during moments of relaxed attention. The phenomenon of the eureka moment often strikes when you're in the shower, taking a walk, or just before falling asleep. This happens because these relaxed states allow the default mode network to operate freely while reducing the activity of brain regions that normally filter out unusual or seemingly irrelevant thoughts. Your brain's capacity for creativity is intimately connected to its ability to form and break patterns. Throughout your life, you develop mental habits, well-worn neural pathways that allow you to navigate familiar situations efficiently. But creativity requires the ability to step outside these patterns, to see familiar things in unfamiliar ways. This cognitive flexibility emerges from the interplay between brain regions that maintain established patterns and those that can override them when something new is needed. The right hemisphere of your brain has long been associated with creative thinking, though the reality is far more nuanced than popular culture suggests. Rather than being the sole seat of creativity, the right hemisphere excels at making broad, loose associations between distant concepts. It's particularly good at understanding context, grasping metaphors, and seeing the forest rather than focusing on individual trees. The left hemisphere, by contrast, tends to make tighter, more logical connections, excelling at language, analysis, and step-by-step reasoning. True creativity emerges when both hemispheres work together, when the right hemisphere's broad associations are refined by the left hemisphere's analytical precision. This collaboration happens through the corpus callosum, that thick bridge of nerve fibers connecting the two sides of your brain. During creative tasks, traffic across this neural bridge increases dramatically as the hemispheres share information and coordinate their different styles of thinking. The emotional centers of your brain also play crucial roles in the creative process. The limbic system, particularly areas involved in reward and motivation, helps determine which creative ideas feel promising enough to pursue. When you have that satisfying aha moment, it's partly due to a release of dopamine in reward circuits, the same neurotransmitter involved in other pleasurable experiences. This chemical reward system encourages you to continue exploring creative possibilities. Emotions don't just motivate creativity, they also provide raw material for it. The amygdala and other emotional centers contribute feeling tones to creative work, infusing abstract ideas with personal meaning and emotional resonance. This is why truly great creative works often move us not just intellectually but emotionally, resonating in ways that purely logical constructions cannot. Memory systems contribute their own essential elements to the creative process. Your vast store of experiences, skills, and knowledge provides the building blocks from which new ideas are constructed. But creativity requires more than just having access to information. It requires the ability to recombine that information in novel ways. This is where the reconstructive nature of memory becomes a creative advantage, allowing past experiences to be reassembled in fresh configurations. The hippocampus, so crucial for forming new memories, also plays an important role in creativity. Its ability to bind together disparate elements of experience makes it essential for the kind of flexible thinking that creativity requires. People with damage to the hippocampus often show reduced creative abilities, struggling to generate novel ideas or see new possibilities in familiar situations. Sleep and dreams contribute their own mysterious influence to the creative process. During REM sleep, when dreams are most vivid, your brain creates bizarre combinations of memories and experiences, unconstrained by the logical rules that govern waking thought. While most dreams are quickly forgotten, some creative insights do emerge from these nocturnal journeys. The surreal logic of dreams can sometimes reveal connections that rational thought would never consider. Even the brain's inhibitory mechanisms play important roles in creativity. Normally, these systems filter out thoughts that seem irrelevant or inappropriate, helping you focus on immediate tasks. But during creative states, this filtering is relaxed, allowing unusual ideas to surface. This is why creative individuals sometimes show reduced activity in brain regions involved in cognitive control, not because they lack focus, but because they can selectively reduce mental filtering when generating new ideas. The social brain contributes to creativity as well. Many of the most innovative ideas emerge not from isolated individuals, but from collaborative interactions. Your brain's sophisticated ability to understand other minds, to see situations from multiple perspectives, and to build on others' ideas becomes a powerful creative tool. The same neural networks that help you empathize with others can help you imagine new possibilities and consider alternative viewpoints. Language itself serves as both a tool and a constraint for creative thinking. Words can crystallize vague intuitions into concrete ideas, but they can also limit thinking by channeling it along familiar linguistic pathways. Truly innovative thinking sometimes requires moving beyond language, working with images, sensations, or abstract relationships that haven't yet been captured in words. The brain's creative processes operate across multiple timescales. Some insights arrive as sudden flashes of understanding, the result of unconscious processing that has been quietly working in the background. Others emerge gradually through sustained exploration and refinement. The most profound creative breakthroughs often combine both types of thinking, beginning with intuitive leaps that are then developed through careful, deliberate work. Environmental factors can significantly influence your brain's creative capacity. Novel surroundings stimulate the formation of new neural connections and can break you out of habitual thought patterns. This is why travel, exposure to different cultures, and even simple changes in your physical environment can enhance creative thinking. Your brain responds to novelty by increasing its plasticity, becoming more open to forming new connections and exploring new possibilities. The paradox of creativity is that it requires both expertise and the ability to transcend that expertise. Deep knowledge in a domain provides the raw materials for creative work, but breakthrough innovations often come from combining insights across different domains or questioning fundamental assumptions within a field. This is why many creative individuals are polymaths, drawing inspiration from diverse sources and seeing connections that specialists might miss. As we continue our gentle drift through the landscapes of the mind, we begin to see creativity not as a mysterious gift bestowed upon a chosen few, but as an inherent capacity of the human brain. Every time you solve a problem in an unexpected way, find humor in an unusual connection, or imagine a different future, you're engaging the same creative networks that have produced humanity's greatest innovations. In our next exploration, we'll delve into perhaps the deepest mystery of all, the question that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for millennia. How does the brain give rise to the warm glow of consciousness, the sense of being a unified self, experiencing the world from the inside, looking out? Consciousness drifts through your brain like morning mist across a quiet lake, so subtle and pervasive that you rarely pause to wonder at its presence. Yet right now, as these words flow through your awareness, you are experiencing perhaps the most profound mystery in all of existence. Somewhere within the soft, silent tissue of your brain, billions of neurons firing in coordinated patterns have given rise to something that transcends mere biology, the warm, immediate sense of being you. This is not simply the processing of information or the execution of complex computations. Computers can perform calculations far beyond human capacity, yet they show no signs of inner experience, no glimmer of subjective awareness. What makes your brain different is not just its complexity, but the way that complexity somehow transforms into the felt experience of existing as a conscious being looking out at the world through your own unique perspective. The mystery deepens when you consider that consciousness appears to emerge from purely physical processes. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every moment of awareness corresponds to specific patterns of electrical and chemical activity in your brain. Yet somehow, from this dance of molecules and electrical impulses, arises something as intangible as the feeling of watching a sunset or the experience of missing someone you love. Scientists have proposed various theories to explain how consciousness might arise from neural activity. One influential idea suggests that consciousness emerges when information becomes globally available across different brain networks. According to this global workspace theory, most of your brain's processing happens unconsciously, like actors rehearsing backstage. Only when information reaches a certain threshold of integration does it step into the spotlight of conscious awareness, becoming available to the entire brain at once. Imagine your brain as a vast theatre with countless performers working behind the scenes. Most of their activity remains hidden from view, processing sensory information, retrieving memories, and planning actions without your awareness. But occasionally, something important enough captures the attention of this hidden workforce, and suddenly it's illuminated on the main stage where your conscious mind can observe it. This broadcasting of information across brain networks might explain why consciousness feels unified despite arising from billions of separate neurons. When you look at a red rose, different brain regions process its color, shape, scent, and texture separately. Yet you don't experience these as disconnected fragments, but as a single coherent perception. The global workspace allows these scattered pieces of information to be woven together into the seamless tapestry of conscious experience. Another approach to understanding consciousness focuses on integration itself. This theory suggests that consciousness arises from systems that are both highly differentiated and highly unified. Each part of the system must contribute something unique, yet all parts must be richly interconnected. Your brain exemplifies this principle beautifully, with specialized regions that each perform distinct functions while maintaining dense networks of communication with other areas. The level of integration in your brain is truly extraordinary. Information doesn't simply flow in one direction from input to output, but circulates in complex loops, with each region influencing many others. This creates what researchers call integrated information, a measure of how much a system's parts contribute to the whole in ways that cannot be broken down into independent components. Yet even these sophisticated theories leave the deepest question unanswered. Why should any pattern of neural activity, no matter how complex or integrated, feel like something from the inside? This is known as the hard problem of consciousness, the puzzle of how subjective experience arises from objective physical processes. We can map every connection in the brain, trace every electrical signal, and still not fully explain why there is an inner world of experience at all. Perhaps the most humbling aspect of consciousness is how it shapes everything else you know while remaining largely invisible to itself. You use consciousness to study the world, yet consciousness itself slips away whenever you try to examine it directly. It's like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror, always the observer, but never quite the observed. The boundaries of consciousness are fluid and mysterious. Every night, as you drift into sleep, your awareness gradually fades, only to return each morning as if nothing had happened. Under anesthesia, consciousness can vanish completely, leaving no memory of the time that passed. These transitions reveal how fragile and dependent consciousness is on the proper functioning of neural networks. Dreams offer another window into the nature of awareness. During REM sleep, your brain generates experiences that can feel as vivid and real as waking life, complete with sensory impressions, emotions, and narratives. Yet these experiences arise entirely from internal neural activity, without any input from the external world. This suggests that consciousness is not simply a passive receiver of information, but an active constructor of experience. The contents of consciousness are surprisingly selective. At any moment, your brain is processing vast amounts of information from your senses, monitoring your body's internal state, and maintaining countless automatic functions. Yet only a tiny fraction of this activity ever reaches conscious awareness. Most of your mental life unfolds in darkness, influencing your thoughts and behaviors without ever stepping into the light of conscious recognition. This selectivity serves important functions. If everything your brain processes became conscious, you would be overwhelmed by irrelevant details. Instead, consciousness acts like a spotlight, illuminating only the most important or relevant information while leaving the rest in shadow. This allows you to focus on what matters most in each moment, while your unconscious mind handles routine operations in the background. The spotlight of consciousness is not fixed, but constantly shifting, drawn by novelty, significance, or sudden changes in your environment. Right now, as you read these words, your attention might drift to a sound outside, the feeling of your breathing, or a memory triggered by something you've read. Each shift represents consciousness, moving to illuminate a new aspect of your ongoing experience. Self-awareness adds another layer to the mystery of consciousness. Not only are you conscious of the world around you, but you're also aware of being conscious. This recursive quality, consciousness observing itself, creates the sense of being a unified self persisting through time. You don't just experience sensations and thoughts. You experience them as belonging to you, creating the narrative thread that connects your past, present, and future into a coherent sense of identity. This self-reflective aspect of consciousness might be what distinguishes human awareness from that of other animals. While many creatures show signs of basic consciousness, responding to their environment and displaying complex behaviors, the ability to reflect on one's own mental states and recognize oneself as a thinking being appears to be rarer in the natural world. The social dimension of consciousness adds yet another layer of complexity. Your awareness of yourself is deeply intertwined with your awareness of others as conscious beings like yourself. You instinctively recognize that other people have inner lives similar to your own, complete with thoughts, feelings, and experiences that remain hidden from direct observation. This ability to model other minds is fundamental to human social interaction and may have played a crucial role in the evolution of consciousness itself. Language profoundly shapes conscious experience, providing tools for organizing and manipulating thoughts. The running commentary of inner speech that accompanies much of your waking life helps structure your thoughts and maintain narrative coherence across time. Yet consciousness clearly exists at levels deeper than language, in the wordless awareness of emotions, sensations, and intuitions that resist easy verbal description. The relationship between consciousness and free will remains one of philosophy's most enduring puzzles. Your conscious experience certainly feels like you're making choices and directing your actions through deliberate intention. Yet neuroscience reveals that many decisions begin unconsciously, with brain activity preceding conscious awareness of the choice by several hundred milliseconds. This suggests that consciousness might sometimes be more of an observer than a director of behavior. Despite these challenges to our intuitive understanding, consciousness remains the most intimate and immediate aspect of your existence. Whatever its ultimate nature, it is consciousness that transforms the cold equations of physics into the warm experience of being alive. It is consciousness that allows you to appreciate beauty, feel compassion, and wonder about your place in the universe. The emergence of consciousness from neural activity represents perhaps the most remarkable phase transition in the known universe. Somehow, when matter organizes itself with sufficient complexity and integration, it begins to experience itself from within. The universe, through the medium of brains like yours, has developed the capacity for self-awareness, for wonder, for the subjective experience of existence itself. As we near the end of this gentle journey through the landscapes of your mind, we can appreciate consciousness not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived. Every moment of awareness, every flash of recognition, every gentle drift of attention represents the universe coming to know itself through the quiet miracle of your conscious experience. In our final exploration, we'll consider how this remarkable organ changes across the span of a lifetime, adapting and evolving while maintaining the continuous thread of identity that makes you uniquely and wonderfully you. From the moment consciousness first flickered to life in your developing brain, it has been on a remarkable journey of transformation, growing and changing like a river that remains itself while constantly flowing toward new territories. The brain you inhabit today is profoundly different from the one that first opened its eyes to the world. Yet through all these changes, the essential thread of your identity has remained unbroken, weaving itself through decades of growth, learning, and gentle adaptation. In the earliest months of life, your brain was a whirlwind of activity, sprouting new connections at an almost unimaginable rate. During these critical early years, neurons extended their branches like eager explorers, reaching out to form trillions of synapses in a process so rapid that at its peak, your developing brain was creating over 1 million new connections every second. This explosive growth created a neural landscape of stunning complexity, with far more connections than your adult brain would eventually maintain. This early abundance served an important purpose. With so many potential pathways available, your young brain possessed extraordinary plasticity, able to adapt to whatever environment and experiences it encountered. Language acquisition during these years demonstrates this remarkable flexibility. Children can learn multiple languages simultaneously with an ease that adults can rarely match, their brains effortlessly forming the neural circuits needed to navigate different linguistic systems. But this period of explosive growth was followed by an equally important phase of refinement. Throughout childhood and adolescence, your brain engaged in a process of careful pruning, gradually eliminating connections that were rarely used while strengthening those that proved most valuable. This wasn't destruction, but sculpting, like an artist removing excess material to reveal the masterpiece within. The brain you emerged with in early adulthood was leaner and more efficient than its childhood predecessor. Optimized for the patterns of thinking and behavior that had proven most useful, the teenage years brought their own unique neural transformations. The prefrontal cortex, that crucial region responsible for planning, impulse control, and complex reasoning, was among the last areas to fully mature. This extended development period helps explain the characteristic blend of creativity and impulsiveness that marks adolescence. The teenage brain was capable of remarkable insights and passionate commitments, yet still learning to balance immediate desires against long-term consequences. During these formative years, your brain was particularly sensitive to social and emotional experiences. The neural circuits involved in processing reward and social acceptance were highly active, making the approval of peers feel especially significant. This heightened social sensitivity, while sometimes challenging, served important developmental functions, encouraging young people to form the relationships and social skills they would need throughout life. As you transitioned into young adulthood, your brain reached a kind of optimal balance between flexibility and stability. Neural processing speed peaked during these years, and working memory operated at maximum efficiency. This was the brain at its most energetic and adaptable, capable of rapid learning while maintaining the stability needed for consistent performance. Many cognitive abilities reach their lifetime peaks during this period, from rapid pattern recognition to fluid problem-solving skills. Yet even as some capacities reach their zenith, others continue to develop throughout the adult years. Crystallized intelligence, the accumulated store of knowledge and skills built up over a lifetime, often continued growing well into middle age and beyond. The brain became increasingly skilled at drawing upon this vast repository of experience, compensating for any decline in raw processing speed with wisdom and expertise. Middle age brought its own subtle transformations. While the brain might begin to process information slightly more slowly, it often became more efficient at using the information it already possessed. Neural networks developed richer interconnections, allowing for more nuanced and integrated thinking. This period often marked the emergence of what researchers call bilateral processing, where both hemispheres of the brain began working together more closely on tasks that might have been handled primarily by one side in youth. The aging brain reveals remarkable resilience and adaptability. While some changes are inevitable, the popular notion of inevitable cognitive decline has been largely replaced by a more nuanced understanding of how the brain ages. Many older adults show continued learning and growth, their brains remaining plastic and responsive to new challenges and experiences. One of the most encouraging discoveries in neuroscience has been the recognition that neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, continues throughout life in certain brain regions. The hippocampus, so crucial for memory formation, retains the ability to generate new cells even in advanced age. These fresh neurons integrate into existing networks, contributing to the brain's ongoing capacity for learning and adaptation. The concept of cognitive reserve helps explain why some individuals maintain sharp mental abilities well into their later years. This reserve, built up through a lifetime of learning, social engagement, and mental stimulation, provides a buffer against age-related changes. Brains with greater reserve can maintain function even when some structural changes occur, like a well-designed building that remains stable even when individual components show wear. Physical exercise emerges as one of the most powerful tools for maintaining brain health throughout life. Regular aerobic activity increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new blood vessels, and stimulates the production of factors that support neural health. The same activities that keep your body strong also nourish your brain, creating a virtuous cycle of physical and mental well-being. Mental stimulation throughout life helps maintain neural flexibility. Learning new skills, whether it's a musical instrument, a foreign language, or a complex hobby, challenges the brain to form new connections and maintain its plasticity. The phrase "use it or lose it" applies particularly well to cognitive abilities, with active engagement helping to preserve mental sharpness across the decades. Social connections prove equally important for brain health. The neural networks involved in social cognition remain active and engaged when we maintain meaningful relationships throughout life. Isolation, by contrast, can have measurable negative effects on cognitive function. While rich social engagement provides ongoing stimulation for the brain's social and emotional circuits, sleep remains crucial for brain health at every age, though sleep patterns often change as we grow older. The deep, restorative sleep that is so important for memory consolidation and cellular repair may become more elusive with age, making good sleep hygiene increasingly important. The brain's nighttime maintenance systems continue their vital work throughout life, clearing away metabolic waste and strengthening important neural pathways. The emotional brain often shows remarkable stability or even improvement with age. Many older adults report greater emotional equilibrium, with less reactivity to negative events and an increased ability to focus on positive experiences. This shift, sometimes called the positivity effect, may reflect changes in brain circuits that make emotional regulation more efficient over time. Wisdom, That hard-to-define quality that combines knowledge, experience, and good judgment appears to be one of the brain's gifts to its older self. The accumulated experience of decades creates rich neural networks that can provide guidance in complex situations. This wisdom doesn't replace the quick thinking of youth, but complements it with depth and perspective. The brain's capacity for recovery and adaptation continues throughout life. After injury or illness, neuroplasticity allows for remarkable recoveries as healthy brain regions take over functions from damaged areas. This adaptability is not unlimited, but it far exceeds what scientists once thought possible, offering hope and encouragement for those facing neurological challenges. Perhaps most remarkably, the aging brain often develops new strategies for accomplishing familiar tasks. Rather than simply declining, it reorganizes itself to maintain function through alternative pathways. This neural flexibility represents one of the most inspiring aspects of brain aging, demonstrating that adaptation and growth can continue throughout the human lifespan. As our gentle exploration of the brain's lifetime journey draws to a close, we can appreciate how this remarkable organ serves as both the constant and the variable in the equation of human existence. It changes continuously, yet maintains your sense of self, adapts to new challenges, while preserving essential functions, and grows in wisdom even as some capacities may diminish. The brain you carry today is the product of every experience you've had, every skill you've learned, and every relationship you've formed, a living testament to the power of a neural plasticity and the enduring mystery of consciousness itself. During mystery of consciousness itself, the brain's journey through time reveals one of its most remarkable qualities, its extraordinary resilience in the face of challenge and change. Throughout your lifetime, this 3-pound universe has weathered countless storms, adapted to unexpected circumstances, and found ways to heal itself that continue to amaze researchers and clinicians alike. Even when faced with injury, disease, or the natural changes that come with aging, your brain demonstrates an almost miraculous capacity to reorganize, compensate, and continue carrying you forward through the adventure of being alive. So, when neurological conditions do arise, they offer profound insights into both the brain's vulnerabilities and its strengths. Consider how the brain responds to stroke, one of the most dramatic challenges it can face. When blood flow to a region is suddenly blocked, neurons in that area begin to die within minutes, potentially affecting speech, movement, or cognitive abilities depending on the location of the damage. Yet in the days and weeks that follow, something remarkable often begins to unfold. Healthy brain regions start to take on new responsibilities, forming alternative pathways around the damaged area like rivers finding new channels after a landslide. This process, called neuroplasticity, allows functions that seemed permanently lost to gradually return. A person who initially cannot speak after a stroke might slowly regain language abilities as other brain areas learn to process and produce words. The same neural flexibility that allows children to learn new skills enables the adult brain to rewire itself in response to injury. Physical therapy and speech therapy work precisely because they harness this plastic potential, providing the repetitive practice that helps new neural pathways strengthen and mature. Each movement attempted, each word practiced, sends signals through alternative routes in the brain, gradually building the connections needed to restore function. It's a slow, patient process that mirrors the brain's original development, requiring the same kind of persistent effort that once helped you learn to walk and talk as a child. Epilepsy presents a different kind of challenge, one that reveals the delicate balance of electrical activity that normally flows so smoothly through your neural networks. When groups of neurons begin firing in abnormal synchrony, the resulting seizure can temporarily disrupt consciousness, movement, or sensation. Yet even this dramatic misfiring often responds to treatment, whether through medications that calm overexcited neurons, or in some cases, surgical interventions that can eliminate the source of abnormal activity while leaving healthy brain function intact. The brain's response to degenerative conditions like Alzheimer's disease showcases both its vulnerability and its determination to maintain function for as long as possible. As abnormal proteins gradually accumulate and disrupt neural communication, the brain often compensates by recruiting additional regions to help with tasks that were once handled by smaller networks. This cognitive reserve, built up over a lifetime of learning and experience, can help maintain mental abilities even as underlying pathology progresses. Understanding these conditions has led to important insights about protecting brain health throughout life. Regular physical exercise doesn't just strengthen your muscles, it increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new blood vessels, and stimulates the production of growth factors that support neural health. The same cardiovascular fitness that protects your heart also nourishes your brain, creating an environment where neurons can thrive. Mental stimulation acts like exercise for your neural networks, keeping them active and engaged. Learning a new language challenges language centers. Mastering a musical instrument strengthens motor and auditory regions. And solving complex puzzles activates networks involved in reasoning and problem solving. Each new skill you acquire literally reshapes your brain's architecture, creating stronger connections and building reserves that can help protect against future challenges. Social engagement provides its own unique form of brain protection. The neural networks involved in understanding others, communicating effectively, and maintaining relationships remain active and healthy when regularly exercised through meaningful social interaction. Isolation, by contrast, can have measurable negative effects on cognitive function, while rich social connections provide ongoing stimulation for multiple brain systems. Simultaneously, sleep emerges as perhaps the most underappreciated protector of brain health. During the quiet hours of rest, your brain engages in essential maintenance activities that cannot occur during waking hours. Cerebrospinal fluid flows more freely through brain tissue, washing away metabolic waste products that accumulate during daily activity. Memory consolidation processes transfer important information from temporary storage to permanent networks, while unnecessary details are allowed to fade away. The brain's glial cells become particularly active during sleep, expanding the spaces between neurons to allow more efficient cleaning. This process appears to be especially important for removing proteins that, if allowed to accumulate, might contribute to neurodegenerative conditions. Quality sleep isn't just about feeling rested, it's about giving your brain the time it needs to maintain itself for optimal long-term function. Nutrition plays a subtle but important role in supporting brain health throughout life. The brain consumes about 20% of your body's energy, requiring a steady supply of glucose and other nutrients to maintain its constant activity. A diet rich in antioxidants, healthy fats, and essential vitamins provides the raw materials needed for neurotransmitter production, membrane maintenance, and protection against cellular damage. The Mediterranean diet, with its emphasis on fish, vegetables, fruits, and healthy oils, has shown particular promise in supporting cognitive health as we age. These foods provide omega-3 fatty acids that are essential for brain structure, antioxidants that protect against cellular damage, and other nutrients that support optimal neural function. While no single food is a magic bullet for brain health, the cumulative effect of consistently good nutrition creates an environment where your brain can operate at its best. Stress management becomes increasingly important as we recognize its effects on brain structure and function. Chronic stress leads to elevated levels of cortisol and other hormones that can damage neurons, particularly in memory-related regions like the hippocampus. Learning to manage stress through techniques like meditation, deep breathing, or regular relaxation practices helps protect your brain from these harmful effects while promoting the kind of calm alertness that supports optimal cognitive function. The emerging field of precision medicine is beginning to reveal how individual differences in genetics, lifestyle, and environment affect brain health and disease risk. What works best for one person might not be optimal for another, suggesting that future approaches to brain health will be increasingly personalized. Understanding your own genetic predispositions, combined with awareness of environmental factors and lifestyle choices, can help guide decisions that support your unique brain throughout life. Research into brain-computer interfaces represents one of the most exciting frontiers in helping people whose brains have been affected by injury or disease. These systems can read neural signals and translate them into commands that control external devices, potentially allowing people with paralysis to operate computers or robotic limbs through thought alone. While still in early stages, this technology offers hope for restoring independence to those who have lost motor function, while demonstrating the brain's remarkable ability to adapt to entirely new ways of interacting with the world. Advances in neuroimaging are revealing the living brain in unprecedented detail, allowing researchers and clinicians to observe neural activity in real time and track changes over months or years. These tools are helping identify early signs of neurological conditions, monitor treatment responses, and understand how healthy brains age and adapt over time. The ability to peer into the working brain without invasive procedures represents a revolution in our understanding of both normal brain function and neurological disease. Gene therapy and other cutting-edge treatments are beginning to offer new hope for conditions that were once considered untreatable. By targeting the underlying molecular mechanisms of neurological diseases, these approaches aim to slow, halt, or even reverse pathological processes. While many of these treatments are still experimental, they represent a fundamental shift from simply managing symptoms to addressing root causes of brain disorders. The brain's capacity for recovery and adaptation continues to surprise researchers and inspire new therapeutic approaches. Stem cell research is exploring whether new neurons can be generated to replace those lost to injury or disease. Neural stimulation techniques are investigating how precisely targeted electrical or magnetic fields might encourage healing and restore function. Each new discovery reveals additional layers of the brain's remarkable ability to respond to challenge and change. Perhaps most importantly, our growing understanding of the brain emphasizes the power of prevention and early intervention. Many of the factors that support brain health throughout life are within our control. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, continuing to learn and challenge ourselves, getting adequate sleep, managing stress, and nourishing our bodies with healthy foods. These simple but powerful strategies work together to create an environment where the brain can thrive throughout the entire span of human life. The brain's resilience teaches us that aging need not mean inevitable decline, that injury need not mean permanent disability, and that challenges can become opportunities for growth and adaptation. This remarkable organ that has carried you through every moment of your existence continues to surprise us with its capacity for change, healing, and renewal. Even now, as you rest quietly and absorb these ideas, your brain is gently reshaping itself, strengthening the neural pathways engaged by learning while preparing for whatever challenges and opportunities tomorrow might bring. As our exploration of your brain's incredible journey draws toward its gentle conclusion, we can marvel at how this soft, silent organ manages to be simultaneously the most complex structure we know of and the most intimate part of your existence. It is the keeper of your memories, the source of your dreams, the architect of your thoughts, and the foundation of your very sense of self, all while maintaining the countless unconscious processes that keep you alive and thriving in each precious moment. The future beckons your brain toward horizons we can barely imagine. Territories where the boundaries between mind and machine, between thought and reality, begin to blur in ways that would have seemed pure fantasy just decades ago. As you rest here in this quiet moment, researchers around the world are working to decode the deepest secrets of neural activity, developing technologies that might one day allow us to peer directly into the stream of consciousness itself, to understand not just how the brain works, but how it creates the very experience of being you. Brain-computer interfaces represent one of the most profound frontiers in this exploration. These remarkable devices can already read the electrical whispers of neurons and translate them into action in the external world. People who have lost the ability to move their limbs can now control robotic arms through thought alone. Their intentions flowing directly from motor cortex to mechanical hand without the need for working muscles or nerves. The brain, ever adaptable, learns to communicate with these artificial extensions as naturally as it once controlled flesh and bone. But these interfaces work both ways. Just as we can read signals from the brain, we're beginning to learn how to write new information back into neural networks. Deep brain stimulation, already used to treat conditions like Parkinson's disease, sends carefully timed electrical pulses to specific brain regions, sometimes dramatically improving movement and reducing tremors. Future versions of such technology might be able to restore lost memories, enhance learning, or even treat depression by gently modulating the electrical conversations between neurons. The possibility of enhancing human cognitive abilities through direct neural intervention raises profound questions about the nature of intelligence and identity. If we could boost working memory, accelerate learning, or improve emotional regulation through technological means, would we still be fundamentally human? These questions move beyond science into philosophy, ethics, and our deepest understanding of what it means to be conscious beings in an increasingly technological world. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence continues to evolve, inspired by the very neural networks it seeks to understand and sometimes surpass modern AI systems, use architectures loosely based on biological neurons, creating artificial networks that can recognize patterns, generate creative works, and solve complex problems. Yet these systems, for all their impressive capabilities, still lack the warm glow of conscious experience that emerges so mysteriously from your biological brain. The relationship between artificial and biological intelligence is becoming increasingly symbiotic. AI helps neuroscientists analyze vast amounts of brain data, finding patterns too subtle for human perception. Machine learning algorithms can predict which memories will be forgotten, identify early signs of neurological disease, and even decode simple thoughts from brain scans. In turn, studying biological intelligence continues to inspire new AI architectures that are more efficient, adaptable, and perhaps eventually conscious. Genetic technologies offer another pathway toward understanding and potentially modifying brain function. As we identify the genes that influence neural development, cognitive abilities, and disease susceptibility, the possibility emerges of editing these genetic instructions to prevent disorders or enhance capabilities. Such interventions would need to be approached with extraordinary care, but they hint at a future where genetic predispositions toward neurological conditions might be corrected before symptoms ever appear. The mapping of neural connections, sometimes called the connectomy project, continues to reveal the brain's intricate wiring diagram in ever greater detail. By tracing every connection in model organisms like mice, and eventually in human brains, researchers hope to understand how specific patterns of connectivity give rise to particular cognitive abilities. This knowledge might allow us to diagnose and treat brain disorders with unprecedented precision, targeting specific circuits rather than broadly affecting entire brain regions. Virtual and augmented reality technologies are creating new ways to study and potentially treat the brain. These immersive environments can be used to study how we perceive space and time, to treat phobias and trauma through controlled exposure, and to provide rich sensory experiences for people whose natural senses have been compromised. As these technologies become more sophisticated, they might eventually interface directly with the brain, creating experiences indistinguishable from natural perception. The study of consciousness itself continues to evolve, with new theories attempting to explain how subjective experience arises from neural activity. Some researchers are developing mathematical frameworks to measure consciousness, potentially allowing us to determine which systems are conscious, and to what degree others are exploring whether consciousness might be fundamental to the universe itself. not something that emerges from complexity, but rather a basic feature of reality that becomes organized and amplified by brains. Meditation and contemplative practices are being studied with increasing scientific rigor, revealing how these ancient techniques can literally reshape brain structure and function. Regular meditation can increase the thickness of regions involved in attention and emotional regulation, while reducing activity in networks associated with mind-wandering and self-referential thinking. These findings suggest that consciousness is not fixed, but can be trained and developed through practice, offering new approaches to mental health and human flourishing. The social brain, too, is receiving renewed attention as we recognize how profoundly our neural networks are shaped by relationships and cultural context. Mirror neurons, those cells that fire both when we act and when we observe others acting, may be key to understanding empathy, language development, and the transmission of culture across generations. Understanding these social aspects of brain function could help address challenges ranging from autism to political polarization. Aging research is revealing that the brain's decline with age is neither inevitable nor uniform. Some cognitive abilities do typically decrease over time, but others remain stable or even improve. Moreover, interventions ranging from physical exercise to cognitive training can help maintain brain function well into advanced age. The possibility of extending not just lifespan, but health span, keeping minds sharp and engaged throughout longer lives, represents one of the most hopeful directions in neuroscience. Precision medicine approaches are beginning to tailor treatments to individual brains based on genetic profiles, brain imaging, and other biomarkers. Rather than using one-size-fits-all approaches, future treatments might be customized to each person's unique neural architecture and patterns of connectivity. This personalized approach could make treatments more effective while reducing unwanted side effects. The therapeutic applications of our growing understanding continue to expand. New treatments for depression might target specific neural circuits rather than broadly affecting neurotransmitter systems. Therapies for memory disorders could work by enhancing the brain's natural consolidation processes. Treatments for addiction might help restore the balance in reward systems that become disrupted by substance use. Educational applications of neuroscience research are revealing how we learn most effectively and how educational experiences can be optimized for different types of minds. Understanding how the brain processes language, mathematics, and other subjects could help create more effective teaching methods that work with, rather than against, natural learning processes. Such insights might be particularly valuable for helping students with learning differences reach their full potential. The philosophical implications of our advancing knowledge about the brain continue to deepen. If consciousness arises from physical processes, what does this mean for concepts of free will, moral responsibility, and the nature of the self? These questions aren't merely academic, but have practical implications for legal systems, educational approaches, and how we understand human dignity and agency. Environmental factors in brain development and function are receiving increased attention, from the effects of air pollution on cognitive development to the impact of screen time on attention. We're learning how the modern environment affects our neural systems. This knowledge could help us create environments that better support brain health and optimal cognitive function throughout life. The democratization of neuroscience tools is making brain research more accessible than ever before. Consumer-grade EEG devices allow individuals to monitor their own brain activity, while smartphone apps can assess cognitive function and potentially detect early signs of decline. This shift toward participatory neuroscience could accelerate research while giving people more agency over their own brain health. International collaborations are pooling resources and expertise to tackle the brain's biggest mysteries. Large-scale projects involving thousands of researchers across multiple continents are mapping neural circuits, studying brain development, and investigating the genetic basis of neurological and psychiatric conditions. These collaborative efforts demonstrate that understanding the brain is truly a global endeavor, requiring the combined wisdom of diverse perspectives and approaches. As we stand at the threshold of these remarkable possibilities, your brain continues its quiet work, processing these ideas, forming new connections, and perhaps even changing slightly in response to this very exploration. The organ that allows you to contemplate its own future remains as mysterious as it is magnificent. A universe within your skull that continues to surprise us with its depth, complexity, and endless potential for growth and adaptation. The journey of understanding the brain has only just begun, and the discoveries that await us promise to transform not only how we treat disease and enhance human capabilities, but how we understand the very nature of consciousness, identity, and what it means to be human in an age where the boundaries between mind and machine, between self and world, are becoming increasingly fluid and fascinating. Every question we answer about the brain seems to open 3 new ones, ensuring that this gentle exploration of the whispering galaxy within your skull will continue for generations to come. Each discovery bringing us closer to understanding the most remarkable structure in the known universe, the soft, silent organ that makes all understanding possible. And so we reach the gentle end of our journey through the whispering galaxy that exists within your skull, that remarkable universe of 86 billion neurons that has carried you through every moment of your existence. From the microscopic dance of neurotransmitters to the grand symphony of consciousness itself, we've explored how this 3-pound organ creates everything you know, feel, and are. Thank you for drifting with me through these quiet corridors of wonder, and may your own neural networks continue their beautiful, mysterious work as you rest peacefully tonight.